Good afternoon and hello everyone. Today I'm with Eckhart Han and I want to start with a little bit of an introduction to this interview, Eckhart. This would have been your eighth solo with us at the gallery, titled Götterfunken. As I always say, my German is horrible, so I hope that the pronunciation is still...
My English is also horrible.
Nice.
But I give my best.
So I hope that is the correct pronunciation. And then this title is coming from a very big reference for this exhibition, Eckhart, which is the poem by Schiller, Ode to Joy. Of course, this show, for obvious reasons, we've been pushed to present it by different means. But in any case, I'm very happy to have you here today with us and be able to ask you these kind of questions that pop into my mind, and I believe that also into Pablo's birthday collectors or gallery friends, every time that they have in front of them a painting by Eckhart Han. How did you started working with Pablo's birthday?
Yeah, okay. When I was a young painter, a good friend of mine, Fabi, he brought his buddy Arnie along to visit me in my studio. No, it wasn't a studio. It was a very small attic room in my apartment. It was the very beginning of my career as an artist.
Where was that, Eckhart? Was that in...
I think it was 1997.
But which
and
city?
1997, I think.
Yeah, but which city?
It was. I think it wasn't a city. It was something else. Very small.
Small town. Okay.
But Arnie bought a small painting, and in a way, it was the starting point. But the real starting point was that 6 or 7 years later, Fabi told me that Arnie was starting a gallery in New York, and so I sent him a catalog of mine, and this was the beginning of our collaboration as well as a friendship.
That's a beautiful story. I didn't know. I don't think that I know Fabi personally. I'm looking forward to know who is the connection here. Eckhart, we know that you are an avid collector, and I'm interested to know a little bit more about your collection. So what kind of, if you can mention some of the important pieces that you have, also in terms of hanging, which is a very big problem for collectors nowadays, if you are able to hang all the pieces in your collection in your place. And yeah, if you can tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, first of all, I'm not the German Rubel. Yeah, but nevertheless, I love art and I love collecting art. And Marina, my wife, and I, we buy absolutely different art than mine. So I can say the first buy, it was our first substantial work my wife and I bought was a piece by Jorinde Vogt. I saw her booth at the Art Cologne in 2006. I was very impressed. At that time, we don't have that much money. So it was pretty much
an important
decision to spend so much money for something, but it was really
worth it, I guess, right?
It's still hanging in our apartment, and yeah, it was great. Another piece is by Roman Siegner, and there was a very nice story because I was visiting the Art Basel, this photograph by Roman, and it was sold out there. Gallery owner, he gave me a contact, so I have a call with Roman Siegner, and after this conversation, he exchanged a photograph with a work of mine without knowing me in person or my work in detail. And yeah, it was, I can just say what a humble person he is. So yeah,
that's great. And I believe we always, and I talk, you and other artists as well, this is a a beautiful practice or way of doing in the art world between artist and artist collaboration.
Yeah, I would to do it more often, but in fact, I don't have so much works,
You can
so I can.
the wish list. We will send, like, dear Three Kings. So, Eckhart, and in terms of hanging, how much of your collection is actually hanging in your apartment or in your place?
As I said, I'm not the German Rubel, so we hang most of pieces. We have them on the wall, but not in my studio. I don't have any art here because when I'm here, I feel like craftsman. I'm very focused on my work, so it's a pity for any art to hang here without being appreciated. So
I know, and also it can be a little bit of a distraction. I totally understand. Okay, Eckhart, so let's continue with a tricky question, which is, I see perfectionism in your work, and I'm wondering if Eckhart Hahn is a perfectionist person in real life. Do you consider yourself a meticulous person, or do you work more as a free spirit? Meaning, do you have any kind of specific daily routines when you go to the studio? And if so, if you can tell us a little bit more about them.
Yeah, first of all, I don't think I'm a perfectionist. To me, it's about dedication, not perfection. The important thing is to dedicate yourself to something completely. It's not about the effort to make it perfect. So yeah, at least it doesn't interest me to be perfect. Yeah, I don't know what that means. So a perfectionist wants to control, and I think I can let go of many things and still do something very intensively. So that has less to do with perfectionism than more with professionalism, to put one's skills to the maximum use in something. That's to the point of the perfectionism. And my daily routine, my workday is a relatively structured routine. I start at 7:30 to 6 p.m. like a normal worker. So the only ritual is in the studio is audiobooks, and which actually become essential to my studio practice. Sometimes I think I can't work without audiobooks because it feels like a little bit like coca leaves, like working in a silver mine.
It's necessary. Eckhart, which one are you listening to right now? Which audiobook?
Right
Or are
now,
you doing several?
in America, I think he's well known. In the States, James Burke. I think it's a criminalistic author. But I listen from Kafka to Tolkien,
So
everything.
different topics.
Just listening.
How far is the studio from your place, Eckhart?
My studio is, I think, with the bike, 5 minutes.
Okay, so very close.
Yeah.
Okay. Eckhart, for collectors that are not familiar with your work, I would like to get a little bit of the artist insight here. It's very interesting because normally when we talk about an artist's practice, we say things that potentially the artist wouldn't be saying. So for that, I want to get your insight as an artist, which is, we see a significant influence in nature in your work, but certainly filtered by a surrealistic and conceptual lens. So can you tell us more about it? What influences your practice? Is there any conceptual reference, literature, cinema, audiobooks that we've been discussing just now?
I think nature is as a whole was always something which was one of my guiding reference in my whole life, and I think I'm fascinated by the tension in nature for its purpose, that you can say beautiful and cruel things can often be present at the same time. And that's why I'm always interested in things that are not presented in a stencil-like manner,
Yes.
such as a precondition situation of the usual, conceptually speaking. It's not about like a cliche, like it's not about the threatened nature or this destructive mankind. It's rather to be found on a spiritual level.
I understand. Yeah, totally conceptualizing the idea of nurturing this or using it as a source. Eckhart, I know that you are not a big fan of this question, but it's important to ask so that also people, collectors, gallery friends know that you are not a big fan of it, which is technique. Anyone that discovers your work is fascinated about technique, and I want to know a little bit more also about the painting process. If you want to tell us, well, your thoughts about technique, or how important is technique here for you to conceptualize or put into reality that idea that you have in mind, and also about the painting process itself.
As you said, I'm often asked this question again and again, and I come back to your previous question about perfectionism. I just can say I'm not interested to be like an old master. So I'm not so interested in the history of painting technically or to do a perfect painting, whatever that means. It's rather secondary to me. My technique has developed from necessities. For example, I started with oil painting. And at that time, maybe as I met Arnie, I found out that I can hardly wait until layers have dried. So I had to paint several paintings in parallel, and I noticed that didn't fit to me. So that's why I moved to acrylic painting. So it's not that my technique is it's the result of yeah,
Right?
and also it's you can say like the things I have in mind, the images that I have in mind, they should become an adequate level on the canvas. So there was no choice for me to decide if I go more for expressive or abstract painting. It has always been, yeah. That.
I guess that is the tool that serves you to materialize the object within the canvas. So yeah. Exactly, I didn't know about that you started with oil, and you couldn't wait because you are anxious and you didn't like to be working on several paintings at the same time. Or it was a little bit that, right? Like a personality characteristic.
You can say I want to. Sometimes it's like you want to get rid of something, and when you have 6 paintings around you, it takes hours and hours and hours, and then it takes months or years to finish them. So it's better to finish one and then it's done.
I mean, it would drive me crazy if I need to have parallel themes, piling. Eckhart, so let's see if you do like this question, but it's a little bit related to the technique one. This is a question that, people tend to ask and are always very curious to know. How long does it take for Eckhart Hand to complete a painting?
How long does it take? I can only answer to that in this way. Economically, it probably makes no sense because working hours doesn't interest anyone in the art market. But strangely, the recurring question is about working hours. So yeah, I think this disturbs me. So it's not important for me, but as a craftsman, I say I'm not overpaid.
Good to know. Okay, Eckhart, and continuing here, not everyone is aware that you also make sculptures. And actually we have one rattlesnake if I pronounce it correctly, included in your show, in your coming show with us at the gallery. What are some of the main challenges you face while changing media? And also for me, more than even that, the most interesting thing or connection that I see here is that we feel that your paintings have a very sculptural feeling. Do you feel the same way? Is there any connection or anything that you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Sculptural aspects can be found in my work, and even sometimes I find that my work has clear sculptural aspects, but that they can open even more spaces through the fictional possibility of the expansions in the painting. Yeah,
Yeah.
sculptural aspects can expand there in your mind. And some of these objects find their way out of the painting into the concrete, and therefore manifesting themselves here as objects or sculptures. But both paintings or sculptures originate from the same cosmos. So going beyond to the fictional possibility.
I see. Yeah, it's when you ask also a person or an artist that creates works on paper and paintings.
Yeah.
What is, it's never about what is more important. Is one is the result, and there's a combination, right? Between the different.
I have no different feeling for the painting or the sculpture. It's family.
So. Exactly, absolutely. Eckhart, you studied photography, and now in your work you seem to challenge photography. Why, and with what intention?
I've always been interested in some kind of realistic representation. Realistic in the sense of kindship or familiarity of things, and the tension that arises when you deviate from it. What is interesting here is the degree, the separation between reality and truth.
Yeah. I see, and also I guess that this is the best tool that serves to represent, right, the conceptual image that you have.
And that's our whole world. What we see is the reality, but what is the truth? Yeah, one of the biggest questions today. Absolutely. All the media, everything. Yeah,
absolutely.
This gap between those
truth and reality. Mm-hmm. Eckhart, continuing here, I'm curious to know what your favorite artists are. I know that this is like kind of a not difficult question, but it's like the question that every artist is being asked in an interview, right? For us, it's very interesting. Also, potentially you have an interest towards super abstraction, but then in your practice, you are very realistic, touching the hyper-realistic nerve. So what are your favorite artists? Is there any artist that particularly influences you? And is there any contemporary artist that you've been following lately?
I'm influenced by the whole world. So first of all, I can't pick a name out. This is one artist I follow, but I'm interested in that's the reason why I collect art. So, but finally, name dropping when you like to hear something. Let's keep it short. I would say this time Joseph Cornell or Hans Arp, Konrad Klapek, and Stephen King. He's also an artist to me. So I think he's more a philosopher than an author of horror books. Yeah, I like his work.
Great artist.
An artist I discovered in the last time, it was Last Art Cologne, a young artist. I think he's an American artist, Alexander Carver.
It sounds it rings a bell, but I don't think that I'm very familiar with the works.
Yeah, I think yeah, you should look after him.
Thank you for the tip. So, Eckhart, we are getting there now, getting towards the end of the interview. This has been so enlightening so far, very interesting to hear your thoughts and opinions about your practice, your work, but also the art world in general. And I'm going to get into that, the art world and the art industry. So, of course, it's obvious, right, that in the recent months, this pandemic has been or is going to reshape what we understand as the art industry and the art market. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts. If you think that we will turn back into the normal status quo, if this pandemic is going to change the art market. And also, I'm also curious to know, for you, how important has been or the art market or the industry has influenced your work?
I believe this crisis will be a huge challenge for the art market, but I suspect that it will only accelerate processes that have already begun. I think we are in a shift from materiality to a more content-based approach. This you can feel already in the art. I could imagine that, as you asked me for what affects the art market or the collectors, I think for a collector, the personal significance will become more important, and the status and the representation or the effect on others of an artwork will become less important. Maybe. I think that we will have a situation after the crisis that people, I think, are longing or will long for something more spiritual, maybe. Yeah.
I need to say, I hope so, right?
I hope so too, but yeah, but I'm an optimist, so I think it could be a chance for not only for the art market, but for all of us.
Every industry, yeah, all of us, exactly, society, right? But yeah, I mean, unfortunately for the art market, the art industry, it's been tough. We'll hopefully, thanks God, we are seeing that you guys in Europe, in your case in Germany, things are getting to a certain normality. So hopefully that situation will arrive to the States soon, and we are all over, as I call it, this bad thing, right?
Yeah.
So Eckhart, the last question for you. It's been a pleasure to have you here. And my question here will be, as we said, Götterfunken, the 8th solo with us at the gallery. I want to know is there what people expect or should expect from this most recent show with us, and if there is anything in particular you hope the audience takes away from the show.
Yeah, I named the exhibition Götterfunk after Schiller's poem Ode to Joy. As we talked about, my work deals with the question of spiritual or transcendence. Other people will say it's the question of God. But to me, I can say I believe in life. Even with all the problems we are facing right now, if it's the climate catastrophe or the corona pandemic or all the wars in the world, we humans will disappear one day.
Yeah.
But life will not. And even if this is a paradox, I find this very reassuring in a way.
And it's true. I mean, life goes beyond. Yeah, we are a tiny representation, right, of what life is.
So the exhibition is not just giving hope. It should expand the mind that there's more than just to hold on things. Sometimes we have to let go things.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Life is a learning, a continuous learning experience. Eka,
Yes,
I see a table tennis. That is how we call it in English, right? Uh,
table tennis.
yeah, but this is
Yeah.
your studio. Is this? Are
Yeah.
you really in your studio? Do you play table tennis in your breaks?
I sometimes I paint, but the most time I'm
Table
I'm
tennis.
working on my technique with the table tennis. No, on the one hand, it's very funny to play with friends and my daughter table tennis, but it's also a perfect working table. So it's the best of both worlds.
Super.
Perfect match.
That's that's great. I love it. Okay, Eka. So this is the end of our interview. Thank you very much for being with us here today. It's been a super pleasure and really interesting to hear your thoughts about your show, your practice, and also the art, the culture in general. And now I'm very much looking forward to see or present, because I've seen them already, the works that you will be presenting for Goten Funken, which will be opening by, as we said, other means next week. So thank you very much for being here with us today. And I hope to see you very soon and hug you physically speaking.
Thank you, Clara. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. And I appreciate so much that you joined the gallery. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Bye.
Bye.